welcome back to my channel. I hope everyone's doing well. For this little very short, and I mean very short, stream, we're just gonna do a quick rundown on how to do muscles. As you can see here, I just decided to do some practice runs from my earlier stream, so I just wanted to show you guys step by step how I ended up doing that for here. So as we take a look over here on this side, I'll go ahead and zoom in. And then after looking at each sketch, we'll go ahead and draw our muscles step by step, so that way you guys can have an overall view of both the sketch and then the final inking result. So as you can see here, I just decided to do some cute little samples of my muscles in different positions with different characters and also different viewpoints. When you're drawing muscles, it's good to have at least some basic understanding and dynamic understanding of how the muscles are structured and also how they're built, so that way you can learn how to do things very simply and then try to draw them in different shapes and poses as well. So now that we've viewed the examples, I'll go ahead and just show you guys very quickly, or as quick as I can. And then after that, we can go ahead and step further with the actual baseline sketch. So for those of you who don't know, this software that I always end up using in order to do my poses and my sketches is called Krita. It is free to download, and then they always update to the latest versions as much as they can, so that way it stays in tune. When it comes to Krita and when I give my own critiques about it, I think it's a very good entry-level beginning software, especially for artists trying to learn how to draw and then just trying to learn basic figures and shapes in order for them to get their basic guns down. And so when using Krita, it's very important to understand key features like the tools and then also the layers here, along with the color grid and then the other different brushes and other brush tools that they have available for you. But yeah, Krita I do recommend. But of course, if you're trying to do some very baseline projects, always try your hardest to save up in order for you to get the latest version instead of dealing with a beginner base model. Alright, so now we're gonna start off. So for this sketch, I'm gonna keep it very simple. As you can see, step by step, when I end up drawing the muscles, I first have to figure out what shape do I want the character to have. And for this one, for this person, I always use a bit of a noodle shape in order to get the general underlying feeling. It's always just going to be more of a circular rectangle. And then after that, you can start working on other different features and layers as well. So for this, it's just going to be a very simple rough sketch. Nothing too simple, nothing too extraordinary, but it is also good to get the basic understanding done of when you're drawing your muscles. So whenever you're drawing your muscles, you always have to think about a nice baseline for it. And when I say baseline, that's just my own definition. But basically what that means is you're breaking it down into section and into layers. So of course, we're going to start with the head shape. That's just kind of to give your character a standing ground for where you're going to connect the neck, and then also where you're going to connect the shoulders. So when you end up doing the neck and the shoulders, it's going to be a nice little cylinder along with two triangles from the side. These are your scapulas over here, so that's what's going to help you create that dynamic muscle feature. And then of course, two big circles for the big giant muscles over here. For those of you who might have like a nice foundational understanding of muscles, I don't know every single muscle or every single detail. You don't have to, as long as you have a general basis and a knowledge for certain muscle groups such as the deltoids, the triceps, biceps. You have your abdomens and your pecs, and you just know what it looks like. It should be a little bit more simpler and easier for you to draw. So as you can see here, I do like to draw my characters a bit beefier. So of course with the pecs, we're just going to go ahead and give them a nice round shape in order for it to flex out. And remember, this is just a rough sketch. It's not our final sketch, what we're going to do on this layer. So of course, not every person, but most people who have muscles, they do have a six-pack. It's very good to understand certain breakdowns of it. And so when you end up drawing your muscles, always remember that they're going to have that indentation right here, just above the chest where that lays out. This is going to be the divide of your chest in between both this and your scapular area. And then of course the neck veins right here. So I think for a better example, and I'll go ahead and pull it up. I'll go ahead and pull up a muscle chart just for you guys to see, and then also for you guys to understand different muscle groups. So what is a good one that's very overall simple? So I'm just going to pull up a simple muscle chart. Once again, nothing too overly complicated, and just simple enough for you guys to have a grasp or overall understanding. Okay. So I'll go ahead and pull up this one. Perfect. So as you see here, we're going to try to use this as a basic guide to overall divide up what our muscles are leaning towards. This kind of looks like a little different area, but as we can see here, we're going to see and work on our pectoralis majors over here. You're going to have your biceps. You're going to have your traphoids, your deltoids. You're going to have your external obliques that are going to hang off right here from the side. That way we can get into details along with the abdomens. We're not really going to focus too much on the bottom area and more so the top area of the muscles. So as long as we have a good basic understanding right here, you have your finger flexors, your finger extensors. Ooh, that's a big word. You're going to have our branchies and then our external obliques along with our sartorius anteriors. So yeah, if you have a nice basic understanding of muscles, even if you don't know the names like I don't, you can go ahead and focus on these in order to get to the right shape. So now what we're going to do is just follow this guide in order for us to create our muscles. Okay, perfect. So now as we continue, we're going to go ahead down the line. There you go. And we're going to go ahead and focus on our abdomen. Now, anytime that you are doing abdomens, make sure that you understand there is going to be space in between both of the biceps and also right here in between the abdomens as well. So when you end up drawing it, you have to kind of think about it being round. And a nice little tip that I like to think about is just imagine it being, let's get an example, marshmallows being laid on top of each other. So whenever you lay marshmallows on top of each other, they're always going to smush. Not so much, but when they're in a bag, they're going to be compressing up against each other in order to create the shape, and then they become to have the bouncy exterior as you can see here. And so with that being said, you're going to have your tiny marshmallows right here on top, and then you're going to have your big marshmallows right here on the bottom. Don't forget the little, what is that called, belly button right there. And of course we're going to focus on our exterior area here. Now because this character is in a certain position, you always have to remember when we're focusing on the exterior obliques, the back is going to show just a bit more, and you're still going to give it shape. So one of the many misconceptions that people mostly have whenever they're doing muscles is because when you're doing muscles, especially if you're drawing a guy, they don't really give it that much of a shape because they focus more on like, oh, guys don't have that much of a figure, it's more blocky, and so we don't have to really give them curves or any of that because it's unnecessary. That I do have to disagree with. Even guys themselves, when you don't see them, they do have curves. So you have to create that likeness in order for it to kind of really fit, in order to fit the mold that you want for their obliques and their other muscles as well. So So now when we focus on the arms, and I'll pull up the diagram one more time. As you can see here, we have the triceps, the deltoids, and the biceps. Sorry. And then the biceps as well. So this is going to be our top of our neck, the triceps, the deltoids. Oh, pardon me, not the triceps. The triceps are actually going to be here in the back of our arms. And then from right here, we're going to focus on the trapezius. There you go. You also have the deltoids on the bottom. The triceps right here underneath it. The branchies right here from the side, and then the finger flexors on the inside of our arms. Oops, sorry. I think what I'm actually going to do for the next stream or for the next video is just practice saying the words themselves. I haven't studied the human anatomy in quite some time, so apologies if I don't know the words completely or how to say them. But just so for you guys to get a great and overall understanding, you just have to imagine the muscles on top of each other in order for them to create that shape. And of course, make sure you always balance everything out. You don't want to make the muscles too big or too small, because you also have to make sure that they fit the overall shape of your character. Now, we're not going to draw the muscles all the way, just because I do plan on doing having this character wear a t-shirt or just taking off their shirt. So then we're just going to focus on the other areas of the muscles here. If all the muscles aren't showing, that's fine. You also have to focus on making that shape in order for it to fit well. So because they are going to be wearing or taking off their t-shirt, I'm going to do a nice little sketch of the clothing. Nice little messy sketch right here, so that way it blends in well with the shirt. There you go. And then of course our character is going to be wearing pants. There you go, nice and messy. And of course, here's our top part. Just balancing everything out, bringing it together, and giving them an ear. Okay, perfect. So now that we have our overall messy sketch done, we're going to go ahead and decrease accuracy and then focus on the actual sketch itself. So for this, and then once we're done with our sketch, I'll go ahead and label each of the different parts of muscles from what we saw from our diagram in order for us to go back and just reflect upon it once we watch this video again. So I'm not going to worry too much about the hair for this character, but I do still want to make sure that this character has a nice has a nice head shape. So we're gonna make not too thin of a head shape, but just a nice shape to round everything off. There we go. And then we'll end up drawing his hair a little bit later. Alright, perfect. Now for this one, we're going to zoom in just a little bit more, just to make sure that we're getting in all the details for our drawing.
Ralph's Pharmacy, Care is making things convenient so you can shop and get alerts when your prescriptions are ready. Plus, our pharmacists help you find lower prices by accepting most prescription discounts.
And then once again, apologies for the ads. I do not have YouTube Premium and I don't have any plans to get it. Just because I'm on a budget, so apologies for that as well.
World of Care is in store. Services and availability vary by location. Age and other restrictions may apply.
Okay, perfect. So now when we're drawing in the details, you also have to understand that it's muscles and then it's also skin as well. So when you're drawing in the skin along with the muscles, we don't want to keep everything too tight, but we also want to make sure that we have an overall understanding. Just of what angle, what area that everything's going to be perceived in. So when it comes to muscles, you also have to understand that they still leave room and space in between. So for this guy's chest, it's still going to be nice and perky, but we also want to make sure that there's just enough room for it to breathe in between each line and each layer. So we want to make sure that his chest is popping out and just also creating that nice shape that we're looking for. While also make sure that everything is structured in between. We also want to make sure that everything is also placed correctly. Whenever you're drawing muscles, you also have to think about the contractions and also of how the nerves are also going to come into place as well. So even though we're drawing this muscle, spacing it out and just giving it more room, we also have to think about the other outside layers. So this is the abdomen that we're focusing on, and then just remember, when it comes to the middle part, we also have to focus on the external obliques along with the ceteris anterior that's going to be laid on top on the side here. So when you divide everything, everything's going to be divided in sections. When you're working with the middle, remember there's always going to be 3 parts to it. So that's the abdomen, external obliques, and then the ceteris anterior. The same thing when you're working with the arms, it's divided into 4 pieces. That's how the same process that we're going to follow by when we're trying to draw everything down. And like I said before, I myself am not completely knowledgeable about the muscles. I just kind of learned everything myself just from observation. I did once memorize, basically because I was forced to, the entire human anatomy. But that was some time ago. But I do enjoy drawing, so I just kind of try to stay up to date with it as much as I can. As long as I know what everything looks like, it becomes a little bit easier for me to draw it. So far so good. As we see our structure coming together a little bit more. Now we're going to work on the side angles, just to make sure everything balances out. And then of course also recognize that when you're drawing, keep in mind, try not to be so tight fitting with your art or just with your drawing, because we are trying to make sure that everything is balanced out. There you go. When you feel like that you're drawing too stiffly, everything becomes a little bit close together and it doesn't look natural. So for this, we also have to make sure that everything is flowing correctly. So just like how there's like a space in between here, the arm is going to come as an overlay here while still creating that shape for it. And then after that, we can work on the back. And don't be afraid to kind of just let everything drop down. There we go. And now we're going to do the same thing for the other side. Nice and pretty. And then we're going to do the same thing for the other shoulder. So because of the way that this person is positioned, they are leaning a little bit. So I am going to just draw down. There you go. We're actually going to go ahead and draw down just to kind of make everything bigger but also flatter at the same time. There we go. Just to kind of make the shape a bit more natural. So when you're taking off your clothes, you're going to be leaning over. Which means your body has to be basically going down that way in order for everything to make sense and in order for the body pose to look more natural. So in order to do that, I'm going to go ahead and fix this area right here. As to look like that it's more leaning down. And then of course, we're also going to make this a bit more lighter. Gonna move this a little bit more down. There you go. And now just for a little bit more added detail, the clothing. There you go. And for the clothing, we're not going to do too much detail. Just a nice, simple little design for the shorts. There you go. This will just be his workout jeans or pants or sweats. The same thing with this side. We're not going to focus on too much details when it comes to the clothes. Okay, there we go. Nice and perfect. And then as a final step, we are actually going to fix the head shape a little bit. Just because I feel like he would look more off to the side. There we go. And of course, let's not make his ears too big. Just big enough. There we go. Alright, now while that's done, now we're gonna start on the cleanup process. So for his hair, I'm just gonna draw anything. Pay no mind or attention as I get this done. There we go. Alrighty, so now that that's done, we're gonna go ahead and add a little bit more of our shadows. Just to make sure that we're getting some of the details in as well. I think for a faster process, I'll go ahead and use this. We'll go ahead and hide that. So when we're adding shadows onto our muscles, we also have to keep in mind just where the reflectory of light is coming from. For this case, I'll have the light coming from this side. So most of the shadow is going to be on this side over here. And when you're adding the shadows, you also have to keep in mind what's going to stand out, what's going to look darkest. Going away from the light. And where is it going to make sense just to kind of leave out those little details. And because the light is majority coming from this side, most of the shadows are going to fall on the left side of the muscles. So now when we're using this brush tool, we're going to do everything lightly. Just to be careful to not add too much shadows onto the wrong areas. We're basically just following the lines and then also adding shadows to areas that don't also fall under the lines as well. Just to give it that nice effect while still following the guide that we created. We're just going to do some light brushing here and here and just make sure that everything looks correct. Some areas are going to be lighter and darker than the other, but that's fine because overall that is the tone that we want for our shadows. The little nooks and crevices that we get here, we definitely want that darker in order for the perspectives to stand out. Alright, and perfect. And then of course, just so that we don't leave the face out. I'll go ahead and give the face some shadow as well. And just a little bit of light shadow in the hair. Perfect. I am gonna fix the clothes a little bit. Not too much, but just enough for it to stand out. There we go. Perfect. And just because I do want to be extra a little bit, we'll just give the clothes some little highlights. Alright, perfect. And let me see if I want to do the same thing with the jacket. Yeah, why not? But for the jacket, we'll just leave it a little bit lighter. Oops. Alrighty, so that part is done. We're gonna go ahead with our select tool and just decrease the size a little bit. Oops. I didn't do what I was supposed to. Oh. Okay, let's redo this. There we go. And we're going to put our guy right here in the middle. Okay, perfect. Now it is time to label, just so that we have a basic just so that we have a basic understanding of our muscles and then layers of what we're doing. So as you can see here, this is a nice little sketch that we created. Just getting the definition and then the muscles, just a basic form in order for us to have a general understanding. So now going back to our chart, we're just going to label everything from the sides just to kind of keep up with what we're doing. So I'll go ahead and put the chart to the side over here. And now let's just label it as we go. So as you can see, the top shoulder, oops, that was too dark. This is going to be our trapezus, or trapezoid. You got your deltoid underneath this. Perfect. And then to the side here, oops, we're gonna have our biceps. And then underneath our biceps, on the outer area, we're gonna have our branchy or tildoilis. Oh my gosh. Whatever that's called. On the inside here. Or let me just do this. But on the very inside, we're gonna have both our finger extensors and flexors. Hopefully you guys can see. Here, in the very middle, we're going to have our abdomen. Oh, sorry. And then apologies for not drawing directly on the actual drawing itself. This is just so I don't mess up the actual sketch itself. Sorry. But we are going to have our abdomen or abdominals. There you go. That's this on the inside. And then I'll draw the little diagram right here. And then on the outer side of the abdomen, we're going to have our external obliques. And then on the outer side, we're gonna have our ceteris anterior. Perfect. And then of course, over here, oops, I can do better than that. Our two lovely chests are going to be called the pectoral or the pectoralis major, also known as the pecs for the male's abdomen. Sorry, for the male anatomy. Perfect. Where else? And then on the back of our arm, we also have the triceps underneath. Along with, what else? That's for the back, that's the juice. All right, that is about it. Perfect. So here we go. This is just a basic understanding and overall grasp of our muscles. Let me go ahead and make sure that it's centered. There we go. And this is basically everything that's labeled for our muscles as well. Well, this is just the beginning for our male anatomy breakdown. So if you're trying to learn how to draw muscles or just trying to learn how to get everything into place, you can go ahead and look at this little guide. Hopefully it makes sense. If not, you can also look up the muscles just to kind of get a basic overall understanding. Again, when you're drawing, you don't have to know everything step by step when it comes to anatomy, the muscles, or just the figure as well. For both men and women, as long as you have the basic and general overall shape, it should be fairly simple in order to draw everything together. Anytime that I'm drawing, one of the key things that I always think about, is the pectoral muscles right here, and the abdomen as well. And just going from there, I always remember the spaces that are in between here, and then of course, the side obliques. The side obliques that are going to stand out a lot with your drawing, as well as making sure that your muscles are balanced. So anytime that you're breaking the arm down in details, you always want to make sure that you're drawing things like the deltoids, the biceps, or the triceps. Those are the three basic muscles that you would need to at least know in order to get the shapes correctly. And then of course, when you're drawing the neck, just a little triangle in shape right here goes a long way as well. So before we go ahead and end this stream, I'll draw to the side. First, let me move this just off to the side over here. And then I'm going to shrink it just a little bit. Perfect. Sorry. So as I was saying, so just to kind of help you guys out a little bit, anytime that you're trying to have an easier time to draw the muscles in the shape like this, the basic and the common shapes that I use in order to draw this figure, it's always going to be number one, you start at the head, very simple. You're going to start with a circle. Oh, let's not make that too thick. But a circle for the head, of course. For the neck, you're always going to use a cylinder. Sorry, we can do better than that. So for the neck, you're always going to use a cylinder. Just to make sure that you have all the shapes down. There you go, connect. And now, of course, for the middle part, you're going to use a rectangle shape. However, for this one, what I decided to do, anytime that I want to imagine the shape I want, it's like a rectangle, but actually it's more of a squishy cube. So just imagine the shape like this. And then if I was going to break it down into dimensions, it would look like this. Just a nice squishy cube or a nice squishy little pillow. And then that's going to be your abdomen. are just the middle part of your body like so. So then if I were to shrink everything all into place, it will look like this. And then look like this. There we go. So that's going to be for a nice middle part. And then when you're drawing your arms, it also varies as well. Of course, you see me. I use those circles. Just to kind of place them in the right areas right here. And also place them right here. Oops. And then when I end up drawing my arms, basically it's the same shape. We're going to use our cylinders again. Along with our circle. In order to get this nice little arm shaped. We're going to do the same thing for this side over here. Just to get everything into place. There we go. And then of course when we're drawing the bottom area, it's going to be the same rectangular shape. That's going to take over the bottom here for the lower part of our body as well. Alrighty then, and there you have it. Excuse me. A very short and simple guide to drawing muscles and also figuring out the shapes in order for you to get to your specific character design. And of course, using the breakdown of just a little muscle chart that we found on the internet, just to get a basic and nice overall understanding. Anytime when you're drawing muscles, just try not to overthink the process. It's good to be knowledgeable in having some information about muscle anatomy, but at the same time, as long as you remember these minimum groups, you'll be able to draw very dynamic poses and basically your muscles in any position or directions that you want for your drawings. But yeah, if you guys like this video, I just want to say thank you so much. Please tune in next time for my stream, and if you haven't already, please check out my other social media, link in my description. I'll try to stream as much as I can just to do little cute breakdowns of certain things like this. It's always good to learn something new when you're drawing, and of course learn different types of anatomies as well. Drawing this was fun. I am trying to do more of my muscle practices just because I am more used to the female form, but I want to make sure that I have the male form narrowed down and everything's cracked as well. So yes, I'll go ahead and combine There you go, these 2 layers, so that way you can see this, the inking process on top of the sketch. And from here, you guys can basically analyze everything that we learned, just put into play for this figure. And then, of course, just basically using what we know, you can also use this to draw these very dynamic poses using the muscles in order for you to create your characters, or when you're trying to come up with different designs for whatever projects that you yourself are working on. Once you have a basic understanding of just where everything lies on top of everything, just start what I basically started off with, and that's just drawing a shape. And that shape is going to be coherent to a pose, and from that pose, you'll be able to just draw out everything and have the map set up in order for you to input the muscles in different areas. So visualize everything like this, so that way when you end up drawing the final results of the muscles, it'll be easier for you to map out and just follow as a guide for your figures. Remember, you can always start here, go from a simple muscle structure like this, so that way you'll end up like this, drawing different types of dynamic poses for your art and other projects that you might be interested in working on. But yeah, once again, thank you guys so much, and I can't wait to see you guys in the next one. Alright, have a great night, everybody, and I'll see you later. Bye!